all-time leading winner at Joe Gibbs Racing. Um, One of the best drivers ever. Just remember that before I go here. Kyle
Yeah, you
Busch
have
at
have to
19th
reminisce a
place.
little bit. You have to reminisce a little bit because he's just not there anymore.
It's just not
turning
his time,
into
not his season.
turning into a Dallas Cowboy fan, but for Kyle Busch.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Redneck Boys. How you doing today, Wes?
I'm doing amazing.
Awesome. A little different from the Fantastic, so that's good. I know that we're
Had to
both
switch it up a little bit.
yeah. I know we're both glad to be back. It's been a while. We had some scheduling things, summer trips and whatnot, so we missed it last week, but we wanted to make sure we got back into it this week. So today we'll give you kind of double trouble. We'll recap two different races. Sound all right with you there, Wes?
Yeah, sounds great.
Hell yeah. Well, let's just get into so the last race we previewed was Iowa. And I remember we were talking about how we were a little worried because it was the first time that the Cup cars are going to be on the track. Short tracks have kind of sucked this year. But honestly, I thought it was a pretty good race overall. There was a lot of passing, there was a lot of excitement, there were cautions and stuff like that. It was pretty entertaining. So I'd probably say the best short track race we've had this year.
Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on all race long. It was not the, I mean, definitely the best short track we've had all
Yep.
season. It was a fun race all the way till the end.
Yeah, definitely. And it was mostly excitement. I feel like came stage two, stage three, stage one. If I remember right, was kind of ho hum. Not much happened. Ryan Blaney ended up winning the stage. Um, Anything else that you remember from stage one? I think stage one was kind of forgettable.
Um, yeah, I can't remember too much from it. It was just I think there was a caution a few laps in. I'm pretty sure. Nothing too crazy though. I would say. I mean, it was just normal racing for a new track. I think everybody was a little skeptical and scared to drive their cars at first, and so it was just you know pretty easy going in that first stage.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. But moving on to stage two, we started out pretty early on. Freaking Noah Gragson, man, it was an impressive drive, and he made that amazing save. After Nemechek kind of sent it a little too hard into there, as soon as they made contact, I said, "Oh shit, that's it for Gragson." But he was able to hold on to that thing.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a great save by Gregson. I mean, coming into the turn there, and it was just yeah, it was a really good save by Gregson. Not much to say other than we've seen a few great saves this season off of turns. Guys getting spun around. I think it was Kozlowski that did it earlier this year.
That sounds right. Yeah, I don't remember where, but I remember us talking about Keselowski doing that. But yeah, then after that, Kyle Larson, I remember didn't understand why he came down all by himself from the front and had a little bit of interesting strategy, but that's what Cliff Daniels and that five car, they have plenty of that. Even Kyle Larson's admitted that he doesn't understand what the strategy is sometimes, but yeah, he does that. And then, unfortunately, right after that, Ross Chastain, he got into the wall with about 45 to go at stage two.
Yeah, yeah. I bet everybody was so fucking happy that that happened. But I
I,
mean,
I,
go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna say I thought it might have ended his day, but what were you gonna say?
Oh, did it end his day, or am I thinking of
I thought
something?
it. I thought it was going to when it happened, is what I'm saying. But yeah,
Oh,
he was
gotcha,
he was
gotcha.
he was able to recover.
I was gonna say because I thought I thought he stayed in the top 15 there most of the race. He made his way back after that, so you know,
Yeah,
way to make it back into the top 15 with after getting wrecked the way he did. So
right? And that was kind of the thing. There was a lot of bumping. It was kind of, I wouldn't call it old school short track racing, but as close as we've been at least for a while. You had Hamlin bumping Larson out of the groove. He was driving aggressive all race, and there's just a bunch of people kind of hitting the wall. It just kind of became just a thing pretty much. So wasn't as big of a deal as it may be at other tracks. But even with all the Larson strategy and all the stuff I was talking about, he still ended up winning stage two and looked pretty strong, like he was going to win the race up until right after stage three, where I know you saw the wreck and probably were both excited and disappointed because I know you had Larson in your pick'ems. But yeah, tell us about that wreck to start stage three.
Yeah, I mean, Larson. I mean, yeah, like you said, both excited and upset that he got wrecked there, um, but he did also collect Hamlin too, so it was a 2-for-1. I'll take it. I'll take the lose in the standings to get Larson and Hamlin, but no, they saw what I saw was Larson was driving aggressive all day, and I think that's kind of what their strategy was, and that's why he came down to pit a little earlier than everybody else in stage two. Um, but since he was driving aggressive all day, I mean, I didn't think that there was room for him in between Hamlin and Suarez coming into turn three. Um, but he somehow forced his way in there and kind of pushed Suarez down the track, which in turn, if you have all that momentum, you think you got the groove, you get pushed down, and you're eventually going to come back up. And Suarez came back up and collected Larson, which then in turn collected Hamlin, and like I said, 2-for-1. I was excited but pissed off at the same time. A lot of mixed emotions.
What a great day to pick your two of your least favorite drivers and Denny Hamlin for the first time. It was
Yeah,
like the
right,
NASCAR gods said, nope, we can't let that happen, Wes. Can't make sure he doesn't do that ever again.
right.
Well, but yeah, there you go. Of course, defending your track house boys. I'm not surprised that you would say that about Suarez after that. No, I think you're right. It definitely looked like they could have sorted it out, but then Suarez just kind of lost the handle on it coming out of turn three. Definitely in the moment, I thought Suarez just wrecked him. But yeah, going back through like the recap, the review, like I can see what you're saying, and yeah, Kyle Larson's probably just hoping to, you know, get everybody kind of let him by in the sense. But yep, definitely doesn't work there. The aggressive driving comes to get him right there. So yes, collected both of them. Ended your day pretty much for the Pickums
Yeah.
right away. But yeah, moving on from that, we had another big wreck. Busher, he was leading this race and up towards the front. He just lost it all on his own with about 80 to go and kind of ends his day. And then that sets up like the last caution of the day. And normally I like, especially we've talked about like when with in Vegas when we all went that I don't know 2022 when Kyle was leading the race and there was a caution with two to go and a few people took two tires. I was saying take two as well there with only two to go, but this was with 80 to go. And Blaney, Logano, and Stenhouse were the only ones to take two tires. Everyone else took four. And Blaney was the only one I didn't understand taking it because he was the only one of those guys that was already up front. And he had a strong enough car that I figure you were good enough to go back with four tires. I don't know. What did you think when you were watching that race? Did you like that call from Blaney or?
Yeah, no, I mean, Blaney, I don't know. It's like we've seen that too many times before where drivers end up taking two, or when they should take two, they take four. Like your driver, Kyle Busch, I mean, in Vegas a few years ago, like you're saying. Um, and I don't know. I think it all comes down to the strategy, how how tough your car is, how fast your car is. I mean, Blaney looked like he had a good car all day, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely that's the thing is track position is key, especially with these next gen cars. So kind of ended up being wrong because Blaney he took the lead, he set sail, and nobody was really able to catch up to him for most of that 80 lap run. And I just remember too, once we got back to green, boy, talk about like I don't know, two sides of a story, whatever that phrase is, but I think Kyle, he started, I want to say around fourth or fifth on that restart. And I'm feeling good. I'm like, you know what? I even thought for a second, I think it was before the caution, I was like, if things work out, he might be able to get up there and possibly try to win this thing. But then after this, all of a sudden, I just see Ross Chastain taking it three wide, being aggressive like he is on those restarts and gaining a bunch of positions, and then Kyle Busch going the other way. And
Mm-hmm.
I was actually at a bar watching this
It's
race, so I
usually how
couldn't.
it goes. It's usually how it goes.
Yeah. Now it is, unfortunately. Um, it used to be, but I can't turn in too much of that guy. But yeah, he broke something. They talked to him in the during the race in the garage, and I can't remember. Oh yeah, Christopher Bell. What race was that? I think Gateway. Yeah, Gateway when he had that mysterious mechanical failure. Bush was kind of saying like similar things. He's like, yeah, something broke. I don't really know what the heck happened. Hate it for my guys. Blah blah blah. But his day was over, so he ends up finishing second to last after being in the top five. So nothing, nothing
Nothing,
surprising for this 2024 Kyle Busch season.
nothing new from that.
It's just been more and more of the same. But yeah, and then your boy, it looked like, yeah, he got into the top 10, then he slipped back right into his comfortable spot where he kind of likes to be in that 11th place. So he still, continues to not get those top 10s that he looked like he can, but
Mhm.
finishes in the top top 13 instead.
Yeah,
So, no,
we
it's
had
just
to throw a little shit on the Kyle Busch, and then all of a sudden, as soon as you shit on Kyle Busch just a little bit, but then all of a sudden, you just have to come back with some Ross Chastain shit. Can't make
Oh,
yourself
hey,
feel
man.
too bad now. You gotta
Hey,
attack Ross
man.
Chastain still.
Hey, it's just saying he's doing what he's been doing. He's very consistent. Like I'm saying, I'm trying to compliment him. I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, 11th is better. 11th is better than 20th. So
That is very true, and it's a lot better than 35th. But yeah, anyways, getting back off our guys. Like I said, Blaney took the lead and looked like nobody really had anything for him except for Byron. He got it to within, I think, 6/7 of a second there towards the end with about 15, 20 laps to go. And he was on four tires, so I was really hoping that he had enough for him because I had Byron and TJ had Blaney in the pick'ems, and I was like getting all worried. But then I was like, you know what? No, it's Ryan Blaney we're talking about. He's bound to fuck this up somehow, right?
of course.
But he doesn't. He doesn't. He pulls a anti Ryan Blaney, if that's what you want to call it, and wins the race. And TJ wins the pick'ems alongside it. So congrats to that 12 team finally getting the win that they deserve.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad for Blaney. I mean, Blaney's not a driver that you can hate, but he definitely gets the unlucky end of the stick every race, and it just, I'm surprised he didn't run out of gas this time. So,
Right? They made sure to fill it up with extra fuel probably this time. But yeah, overall, pretty much really a awesome way to start Iowa in that Cup Series. I mean, like I said, very exciting, lots of stuff going on. Anything else that we might have missed from that race you can remember?
no, I mean, I think we really kind of went over all the big moments, and yeah, like I said, happy for Blaney that he won it, because he finally got a win and didn't run out of gas and didn't wreck into the wall or all the other fucking things that he usually does when he's in a winning position.
That's a long
Uh,
list.
but yeah, I think we should go over our pick'em standings now.
I think we should. I think we should. I like that idea.
I know you do. Since
You know what?
two of
Just
my
for just to
drivers,
celebrate it.
since two of my drivers decide to wreck that week, Kyle takes first place in the pick'em standings at
Let's go.
31 points. And then I come in second at 29, and TJ's actually starting to catch up a little bit after his win a few weeks ago. He's
Yep.
sitting down in third at 21. So, congrats to you for finally passing me. Hope you
I
enjoy it
know it's
because
been a while. It's either been tied or I've been behind you this whole like by the 3 points or 1 point or whatever it's been. Yeah, but I got lucky. You had the you know you had the guys because you had an average finish of like 27th or whatever when we looked at it, and I had an average finish of 7th. Like all three of my guys were up there. That's why I was like, just need anybody but Blaney to win this, and I'll take the win. But yeah, TJ gets the win, and gotta gotta give it to him while we can, right?
yeah, I mean, I'm just telling you, enjoy it while it lasts because
Oh yeah.
it's not gonna last very long.
Well, I don't know. It sounds like I might get Larson and Hamlin every week now, so that makes me feel even better about it. But yeah, well, thank you for that update on the pick'ems. Let's get into this last week, New Hampshire, where I remember us talking about, yeah, we were talking about this race a while ago where, because I remember saying that it's usually been a race that I've not like been too excited about, just because it can be a lot of just green flag racing and stuff and just long drawn out stages. But this one wasn't too bad, because I think we had qualifying rained out or something. It looked like it was going to rain all day, but we were luckily able to start the race on time and everything. And Chase Elliott, everybody's favorite, was on the pole for it. Gets out to that really strong lead there. But then Christopher Bell, he comes in about lap 42 and takes the lead away from Bell and doesn't look back after that. And he started to look like the car to beat really early on.
Yeah, no, Christopher Bell had a really really good car in New Hampshire. Definitely seemed like he was the car to beat, even kind of right off the start too, because I mean, kind of seemed like he jumped pretty quick into
Oh,
that
yeah.
one spot. So I mean, it wasn't
Yep.
even much of a battle, I think, between him and Elliott for too long. Um,
No, he got Bell pretty quick. Or, sorry, yeah, he got Elliott pretty quick.
yeah. So
Yeah, and he's really been It's not much of a surprise there for Bell at New Hampshire. He did win the Xfinity race on a last lap pass the day before that. Um, Talking about TJ's joke about, oh, Kyle Busch, the only guy that has to go down and beat 18-year-olds. Well, there's others. Okay, there's others, like we always talk about. And Bell took the win away from the 18-year-olds this time, but no. My point is that he has always been really strong. He's already won races in the Cup Series, Xfinity Series at Loudon, so yeah, it was pretty good. And then other than that, not too much going on until last like 5 laps of that stage. It was a three-car battle: Logano, Elliott, and Blaney. They're all kind of looking like they have a shot, especially, if they're battling too long. Blaney can come in, sneak past them. But Logano ended up passing him like right at the line. He passed, sorry, Elliott right at the line for second. So Logano was looking strong earlier too, looking like he had a car that might be able to contend for something actually this week.
yeah, it's surprising. It's a race that he can actually contend for something that actually means something this year. You know what I mean?
Yep, yep. Well, I know that TJ didn't get his hopes up for too long, but we'll have to get into that a little bit later. But yeah, so Bell ends up winning stage one, and then looking like still looking like the strongest car till about halfway through the stage two. Truex is actually starting to come up, and after the green flag pit stop cycle, Truex took the lead. Um, and then looked like he might have the car to beat. But then we started to have a couple cautions, things getting shook up. Denny Hamlin ended up winning stage two. So overall, Gibbs' car's looking pretty strong. Anything else that you remember from stage two?
Not much. I mean, Christopher Bell kind of looked like he was the strongest car on the track, and you know, it didn't seem too exciting of a stage two.
yeah, not too much happening. But then, like I told you we were going to get to it. Joey Logano ended up getting into Chase Elliott and spun him around, and also 'cause they were kind of stuck together for a while. Ended up blowing out the right front of Joey Logano's car and ended both of theirs days. So Joey Logano, even in the race that he had a strong car, still found a way to fuck it all up.
And took out his teammate, dude.
Well, took out Chase Elliott on
Chelsea
that
Elliott.
one.
Yeah, my bad,
Yeah,
my bad.
yeah,
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, because I remember they were. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think it was like a stack up coming into turn two, and it kind
hmm
of pushed it pushed Logano into Chase, and then it was weird how their cars got stuck like that too. I don't know how they could have, but
right. Because it almost
it
looked
was
like
kind of like
Logano was gonna. Sorry, I'll let
yeah,
you
no,
finish.
he was. It kind of looked like his tire got like he was turning to the left too hard, and his tire got stuck in his fender or something. That's what it kind of seemed like. And then
Yeah.
obviously it ended his day, broke a toe link or whatever it was, and ended the day. But
Yep. I was just gonna say that. Yeah, it looked like they could have avoided it or something. Yeah, but then like you said, got stuck because it looked like Logano might have been able to get out of that scot free, but yeah, it got stuck together for too long and ended in both of their days. And then I am surprised you've let me get this far in the race without talking about this guy. Um, 'Cause, man, it's just I don't even know. You sent me a video of like a fuck Kyle. It was like fuck Kyle Busch video. It's like why do you hate Kyle Busch? And the dude said same reason. Wait, what do you say? Same reason you hate? Do you remember what it was?
I can't remember.
Oh
You sent
gosh,
it
because
in the
the
video.
internet says so, or something like that. And it was just like all Kyle Busch's wins and stuff, and how dominant he used to be. But man, and now it's just the opposite. And I just want to I'm like that Spider-Man meme where he's just like everything's crashing around him, and he's just walking all sad. He started in like 30th, and I don't think he ever made it further than like 28th, 27th, maybe. Spun around about three times in that day. The latest one was him spinning into Gregson, hitting the outside wall pretty good. And then shortly after that, they went into a rain delay that really looked like it was going to end the race, but we were able to come back um, after it was hours long. I can't remember if it was like 2 or 3 hours, but we were able to come back on wet weather tires, and Kyle Busch, he just decided, you know what, today's not going to happen even on the dry track. I don't even want to try to get back out there with the water on the track. And man, I know we make a lot of jokes, but this is a depressing effort just from that 8 team and RCR in general. Because I know he didn't have a great end of the year last year, but he had the 3 wins before I think this time last year. So I just don't know what's going on over there at RCR, man.
Well, I mean, he's what 32 points behind the cut line. I think is where he's at right now.
I think I saw about 45, but maybe I hope that you're right.
um, I don't know. I mean, it's just three weeks of just disappointing. 2 out of the 3 weeks he had good cars, was
Yep.
competing up there in the top 10, and yeah, just it seems like I don't know. It seems like he's starting to get the Ryan Blaney look. So
Right? Except the only other thing is that he didn't have the Ryan Blaney strength that, at least at the beginning of the races or anything like for at least for a few weeks now. I mean, he was up there at Iowa, and then I can't remember if Sonoma was the week before that when Ross Chastain dumped him, and fucked up
uh-huh.
his only top five he probably would have had for the rest
Yeah,
of the year.
yeah. You
But
keep on crying.
this race, I mean, he was a lap down in stage one before like anything happened. I feel like, and I'm like, all right, but this is dumb. But yeah, hopefully they can figure something out. I mean, there's a reason that I'm wearing all the championship gear and the 18 gear today. I want to pretend like this 8 season isn't even happening. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I
now
would
they got to
too if
win a
my driver
race.
sucked that bad.
Say, I got nothing for you there. Can't come back with literally nothing I can come back with. But yeah, he's got to win a race now. I feel like that. I mean, 45 points, unless you just have a insanely good stretch of top fives and top 10 finishes for the rest of the regular season, you got to win a race at this point.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna have to figure something out. But yeah, let's move on. So, like I said, we had the weather delay, and coming out of that, man, phew, it was definitely a different kind of racing.
Oh yeah.
And as we expect, and then the couple of guys that it kind of sucked for, Tyler Reddick won because it looked like he couldn't race in the rain at all. Um, and because he just started falling back, like he went to from first to fifth after they went green, like that. I feel like, and then you see a like video game esque spin from Ross Chastain. I swear he spun like 5 times and didn't end up. Did he hit the wall or I think he avoided it, right?
He avoided it. It was coming out
Yeah.
of turn two. Yeah, he avoided that one. Luckily. But yeah, it was a. I don't know, man. I don't know if I liked. This might be a hot take, but I mean, I don't know how much I like NASCAR coming back out onto the track for this one, just because I mean, it just seemed so slippery.
Yeah.
Everybody was slipping. I mean, even the drivers had to come down and drive on the curtain
I know.
for
I
a little
saw
bit of the
that.
race because that
I
was the only
saw.
part of the track that was dry.
Oh my goodness. And it was, yeah, and it's not too much of a hot take, not from what I've been seeing. I know NASCAR's defending it, obviously, that nobody's going to be really surprised there, but yeah, a lot of people are like, I mean, why come out? I know that we want to see cars back on the track, but even then, like that would have been enough to, end the race. I think they were
Mhm.
into stage 3, and I know, guys like Tyler Reddick would have definitely liked it to be called, but I did see NASCAR saying, like, hey, that was a success. We like it. But yeah, it was definitely pretty wild. I saw a meme of, because, they demolished Auto Club Speedway after last year. And I don't know if you remember Auto Club too much. It was that 2 mile track where there was just like,
Mhm.
5, 6 different lanes and you had cars just all over the track. Someone's like, hey,
Mhm.
Auto Club is back because that's what they were doing, the way they were racing. Because you basically had to have that outside, is what it looked like. Because if you took that outside, you could take the turns really wide and get a good run. But then people would go, like I said, all the way onto the apron and just try to cut off as much distance as they could if they couldn't get the outside. Because you would see on like all the restarts, you'd have that second place guy taking in the choose. He would take, you know, the second row on the outside, even the third guy, because it was just so much better of a preferred line.
Yeah, I mean, I that's what I started seeing was the guys driving down on the apron because that's the only part of the track that was dry, and then coming towards the end of the race, guys were starting to hit the middle of the track because that started to dry up. I
Yep.
mean, it was so wet on the track that you could see where it was wet. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and that's not good. You know what I mean? That means drivers are going to start spinning, and
Yep.
especially when at the end of the race when they're trying to be aggressive and yeah. I mean, I know everybody that's not like a true NASCAR, like they're not deep into NASCAR, love to see all the wrecks and all that stuff, but I mean, it just wasn't good. It wasn't a good racing atmosphere, I feel. So,
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that one. And then yeah, because it got to the point where it was annoying. I mean, I was actually I had to watch the race on my phone on the NASCAR app, and they don't have like the commentary or anything. So like
hmm
you literally just have you just be watching the cars do all these caution laps. I felt like we did about 50 of them there at the end of the race, and we had all kinds of wrecks. Like I said, Ross Chastain wrecked, and then there was the bigger wreck with Bubba Wallace, Noah Gragson, Austin Dillon, and there's a couple other guys. Collected all them up, ended their days, and then uh, actually, like you were right about when you're talking about Logano collecting his teammate earlier. His teammate did wreck, at least in that sense, because Blaney and McDowell they wrecked racing for second.
hmm
So yeah, it was just and so many people just getting shoved to the back where it definitely wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the wet weather.
yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, Even the Bubba Wallace, Noah Gragson, and Austin Dillon one that was Noah Gragson pushing the corner just a little too hard, like it was dry. Like if it was a dry track, he could have done it.
Yeah.
But he pushed the inside and tried to get back down onto the apron, which is the only place that was dry. And when he came down, it kind of looked like his car lifted a little bit. He slid right back up into Bubba Wallace and Austin Dillon and collected them. And I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a different type of racing. I can see why NASCAR could defend it, that they could get the cars back out on the track, but it's just, you know, I I didn't like that type of atmosphere for Cup racing. It seemed like it wasn't competitive at that point. It just seemed like everybody
Hmm.
was racing the weather,
Oh yeah.
and trying to just not wreck their car. So that's kind of
Yep.
what it
That
seemed like to me.
That's a great point. And you would see too, if they messed up at all, like it would take them at least a whole lap to recover. You'd have, I think it happened to Larson at one point. I can't remember. He was up there in the top five, and he was able to recover from it. And I think because other people had uh, the same thing happen, but you go into a turn, you catch a little bit of the wet spots or whatever, you'd lose your momentum, and they'd fall back 2 3 spots, and you could just tell they couldn't either get back in lane, they couldn't get grip back or anything, and yeah, so it was just this kind of like slow motion, like just back and forth with these guys. Then you just had to hit, like you said, the right spots, the dry spots to be able to stay on track and not lose your spot and not wreck the car.
Yeah.
But the guy that did it better than everybody, and he even said he liked it. He liked adverse conditions, I think is what he said, was
Well, of
Christopher
course he
Bell.
did. Of course he did. He won the fucking race. I mean, like.
Yep. Hey, I liked it. I'm sitting here in victory lane talking to you, but yeah, I thought it was great. But yeah, so yeah, Christopher Bell wins it, and even though it was what's that, 2 race wins now involved with the rain. It's just kind of
Yeah.
his luck. But like we said earlier, he was looking like the car to beat earlier. Very well could have won it in the dryness. But yeah, Bell gets the win. So that was lauded. That was definitely, you know, a lot to talk about there, at least. At least we had a lot to talk about. May not have been good things, but it was something to talk about. All right, and then we'll move into the NASCAR news. Now, tomorrow after we record this podcast, so probably might be announced by the time we drop it, but Joe Gibbs Racing is going to announce their newest driver, which we were looking at it in the articles and stuff. They were posting a lot of interesting options. We knew a lot of the Stuart Haas guys would probably be look up there. Noah Gragson, Briscoe, Josh Berry. No, I think I talked to you about. I kind of would like to see Noah Gragson in that ride when we talked about it last week, and
Hmm.
then oh man, saw this thing, a little wild card that definitely won't happen, but they did put it in the article. Kyle Busch replace that ride at Joe Gibbs, and I even thought then, like, oh yeah, whatever. But then there was this interview he did, where they asked him about it, and he said, yeah, anything is possible. If they offer me a contract, I could take it. If Hendrick offered me a spot, I could take it. But right now, I'm with RCR and with these guys trying to build up this program. But anything is possible, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, excited. But I know he did. They did say he still has one more year on his contract. All the hoops you'd have to
Hold
jump
on,
through
hold
and
on, hold
stuff.
on.
But
Somebody's got to clip that reaction you just had. That was. That's
got me all
gotta.
juiced up.
That's got to go on the NASCAR page.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh boy! Well, if anything's gonna get me that excited, it would be that for sure. Especially like we talked about after the 2024 season that he's had. But yeah, it's definitely not going to happen. And we know that for sure because our last week's winner, Christopher Bell, let it slip in an interview. He was being asked about like taken more of a leadership role now that he's kind of like a veteran and stuff, more veteran at least than he will be, at least besides Denny Hamlin. He'll be the longest guy there, and he just let it slip. He goes, yeah, and when Chase comes in, and as soon as you said it, you could see in his face that he was like, "Oh fuck!" And all the the reporters and stuff like laughed at him and stuff. Um, and then I saw a tweet. Kyle Larson, he was making fun of this. He tweets out, he's all right, goodbye, Chase Elliott. Uh, it's fun being your teammate for so long. I heard you're going to Joe Gibbs now or whatever. But no, it's clearly a joke because I think, and it was a lot of people's top options. It's gonna be Chase Briscoe will be announced to be joining Joe Gibbs Racing next year. So, you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it'll definitely be a better ride for him. I mean, this and maybe he'll start because I like Chase Briscoe. I think he's a good driver. I just think that his ride hasn't been up to par really this season. He's a good top 15 guy in the car he's in, and I think that going to a team like that is, I think it'll boost his career
Yeah.
to another level, and maybe we'll start seeing him in the top five a little more, and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, he's got the talent. We saw that early on. He won his first race pretty early on in the season, in his first season, and then yeah, he's shown strength here and there, but yeah, just those Stewart Haas Fords have just been so ass for a long time now. That's why their team is folding. But I mean, they did it. I don't know. As soon as they announced that, it seems like those Stewart Haas Fords just have been racing with some anger or something. I mean, I think it was Briscoe that got second place there. Yeah, Briscoe got second place at New Hampshire, and then Barry was right behind him in third. So now they're kind of picking it up. So yeah, to see what Chase Briscoe can do in that Joe Gibbs Toyota is gonna be good for him. I think you're spot on with him getting in a better ride, and probably going to see more success from Chase
Well,
Briscoe.
I also think that they're racing for. I mean, other than Chase Briscoe, obviously, but they're all racing for a spot now on a team. Because I mean, Josh Berry, how much have you seen his name this season?
Yep.
And all of a sudden now he's performing, and it just seems like it's an audition and a tryout for other teams for the rest of the season for Stuart Haas. It seems.
Yeah, that's a great point. We probably, I don't know. I think because, like we said, I don't think it's been announced, but Trackhouse might be getting another charter, so you might be seeing one of those guys with Trackhouse. So might be good for you guys as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we'll keep you updated. Like you said, it's going to be announced the day after we record this podcast. It'll be Chase Briscoe, so you won't be too surprised. But yeah, we'll let you know when that's official. But let's move on to our power rankings. And I'm going to start, you know how we start at the bottom and work our way to a top. So I'm just going to start here at the bottom with two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, all-time leading winner at Joe Gibbs Racing, one of the best drivers ever. Just remember that before I go here. Kyle
Yeah, you
Busch at
have to
19th
reminisce a
place.
little bit. You have to reminisce a little bit because he's just not there anymore.
It's just not
turning
his time,
into
not his season.
turning into a Dallas Cowboy fan, but for Kyle Busch.
I'm definitely gonna have to keep doing that just to keep his name relevant. But yeah, he goes at his season low, 19 in NASCAR's power rankings. Now this was before this week at New Hampshire, so because New Hampshire was yesterday, so we don't have the updated power rankings from NASCAR. So we'll give them a little bit of a break. We won't be as hard on them this year or this week as we normally are, but once we get back on our normal schedule, we'll give them a bunch of shit. But yeah, I can't argue this pick at all. I mean, 19th, yeah, maybe even a little too high for Kyle Busch.
Yeah. No, I mean it's definitely. I think with the 3 weeks that he's had, I mean, he's shown top 10 speed, like I said. Seemed like the last couple of weeks, and now it's just I don't know. I definitely think that he might deserve to fall out of the top 20 and back there with those lesser drivers, especially after this season.
Right after New Hampshire. I mean, this is back down. That's back to back weeks. He finishes next to last, so wouldn't surprise me at all. But let's move on up to number 15. Another guy definitely hasn't been struggling as much as Kyle Busch, but as of late, it's been struggling for him. Ty Gibbs, he falls back 5 spots from the week prior to 15th, and I want to say that's not true, but at the same time, he's in the middle of the worst stretch of his season right now. He was 16th at New Hampshire, so it wasn't like terrible. It wasn't anything, but it wasn't anything great. And then he was 25th at Iowa. So I don't know. I mean, we can talk about it when we go through kind of the other guys, but what do you feel like 15 for Ty Gibbs?
I mean, I might think it. I don't know. Maybe 15 is a good spot for him. Maybe maybe move him up a spot, but it's just. I mean, he's had a long stretch of just bad races, and it just sucks because I mean, at the beginning of the season, I was raving about him and like how good of a car he had and how good he was doing in his sophomore season, and it just feels like all that's gone now. So maybe 15 is a good spot for him.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm thinking too. But yeah, so let's move on up to number 13. That would be Chris Buescher. He drops down 1 spot from the previous week, which again, not too surprising. Now he did get I do believe he finished with the top 5. Yep, he finished in 5th at New Hampshire, so can see him making his way back up, but he was 18th at Iowa, so I kind of understand it. I mean, like they flip-flopped him a lot. We've kind of talked about that, but he has had only 2 top 10s since Richmond back in March. But like we said, he's had speed, and he could have won 2, 3 races. He was up front in Iowa too. He could have won a bunch of these races, and we'd be having a different story. But 13, just with his lack of ability to finish the races, at least that team's ability to finish these races, maybe it's kind of fair as well.
Yeah, I mean, I like Chris Buescher. I think 13 is a good spot for him. It's like I said before. I think the power rankings should reflect the whole crew and not just the driver.
Hmm.
And what it seems like, especially in these last couple of races, it's kind of been more pit crew for him. Because I can't remember if it was at Iowa or New Hampshire. I think it was Iowa where he popped his tire on the front right and
Oh yeah,
uh,
Iowa. Yep.
like kind of did the Melon Man ride around the wall. But
Not as
it's just
successful of
yeah,
a melon
not
ride,
very
but
successful. But
only one
yeah, I
guy's been
mean,
able to pull that off. See, I'll talk some good about Ross
yeah,
Chastain.
there you
Okay,
go. Finally,
so let
like
it
that's
just
the first time
give
in
give.
fucking months.
I'll try to be more of that. So you give Kyle Busch a little bit of a break after what's probably going to keep happening. But yeah, no. Anyways, you were talking about Chris Butcher.
No, I don't know. I think he's good at 13. Like I said before and a million times, I think it should reflect the whole crew, and I think his pit crew's been letting him down in races, and that's kind of where he's been out of the top 10. So,
Yeah. Well, let's move on up to number 12, which is Alex Bowman. He did get back into the top 10 at Iowa. Um, but he did drop down 1 spot to number 12. But I mean, again, it's just kind of that thing. Like you might be able to argue a couple of the guys maybe ahead of him, but he's definitely been kind of falling off. And then he finished last week, but this isn't including last week yet. But yeah, 12 for Bowman. That's probably again kind of fair. It's probably the best power rankings at least so far that we can give NASCAR credit for.
yeah, I like Bowman at 12. I remember we were talking about him having that big long run of top 10 finishes there for a couple months, and then he kind of fell off when I fucking picked him. Um,
Yep.
and now he's back into the top 10. I don't know. I think 12 is good for Bowman. I think it's good where he's at. He doesn't have a race win yet. I don't think he should crack the top 10,
Hmm.
especially with his bad stretch there for a little bit. So I think
Yeah.
it's a good spot for him.
Yeah, I agree. The guy might be able to say like maybe he's still kind of above just like the whole season. Is right above him at number 11, Joey Logano, who jumps up 4 spots from last week. Now, not to say that he shouldn't have jumped up, because he's got, at least before New Hampshire, like I said, he had 2 top 6 finishes in the last 3 races prior to New Hampshire. So definitely on the best run of his season. I think that has a bump up. Um, I don't know, guys like Bowman and even Busher, even though, like I said, Busher hasn't had quite the results you've seen the strength. I think maybe I could argue those two, but it's also it is a maybe. Like it's not like, oh, this is bullshit. Bowman should definitely be ahead of Logano. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I don't know. Logano at 11 is definitely weird to see after the season he's had.
Yeah,
but, but I mean, NASCAR rankings love to look week by week, and like you said before New Hampshire, it's 2 top 6 finishes, and that's what they look at. And so I could definitely say I would put Bowman over Logano at least. Bowman showed a better season to this point than Logano,
yeah,
just in total. So that'd be the only guy I think I could put above Logano after Logano seems like he's kind of going on his best stretch this season. So
yeah. I think that's a good point. But let's move on to number 10. Back in the top 10, even though he can't seem to get the top tens all the time. Now he did at New Hampshire. He finished 10th at New Hampshire, so you can say you got a top 10 now. Ross Chastain um, gets a top 10, and now that's 5 straight. Again, it's 5 straight finishes of 12th or better for him, but his first top 10 in a while. And like I said, just that 10th to, well, 11th usually to 13th place guy. Now he cracks into the top 10 finally.
yeah, it hasn't been the best season for Ross. I mean, usually he's not a points guy. You know what I mean? So he doesn't have
Hmm.
to race as hard. Usually he has a win by this point in the season where he's already in the playoffs. And this is usually about where he finishes. So, I
Yep.
mean, what were we saying a few podcasts ago? It's like he's on at or his average finish is the best that he's had in all of his career um, for this season, and I mean it's right where I think he should be at 10
Hmm.
with his last few races, and so
Yeah.
I
And
think it's
that's
good
just
there.
the thing. It's just been consistent, right? Like he's just been, and he's getting those points, but he's not really like obviously contending for the win. He's had a few races, and then something happened to him. He had a Ryan Blaney type incident, and then but other than that, it's like he's not terrible. He's not finishing 25th, but he's not finishing fourth. Even he's that 11 to 13 kind of guy. Um, but let's move on up to number 9, which is Christopher Bell, who drops a spot this week, which I don't quite understand because he got a top 5 at Iowa. So obviously this still isn't including New Hampshire, which I'm sure NASCAR will bump him up about 7 spots next week.
I was gonna say
Just the
6,
way.
but yeah.
Yep, there you go. But yeah, they dropped him after that. Now it's probably because of the race winner who happens to be ahead of him, but still you got to look at the like we say NASCAR. You got to look at the whole season, and I don't know how you drop the guy when he had a top 5, and like we've been talking about Christopher Bell even before, obviously New Hampshire and Iowa, is he seems to be getting it going at the right time. Like he is showing strength week in week out. He was strong at Gateway, had the mechanical failure, very well could have won that race, still was able to finish strong. So I'm not liking a drop in a 9 even before New Hampshire, too low for Christopher Bell in my eyes.
I've been saying it for a few weeks now. I think Bell deserves to be up higher. I mean, before New Hampshire, he had 2 race wins. I understand one might have an asterisk next to it, but it's still 2 race wins.
Yep.
I think he deserves to be at least in the top 5,
Hmm.
if not better. He has 2 race wins on the season. He's up there with, or 2 race wins before New Hampshire.
For this, yep.
And now I think now I think that they should give him the respect that he deserves and have him up there with the guys that have won 3 races this year.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. Now let's move up. Like I said, the race winner Ryan Blaney's a guy that bumped him down. He jumps up 3 spots from where he was at the last week. Now, don't don't disagree that he doesn't deserve a bump up, but don't want to say that he's better than like Christopher Bell this season. So, maybe just a little too high. Maybe flip flop those two at the very least. But yeah, Ryan Blaney at 8. What do you think about that?
Well, I think I like Ryan Blaney at 8, but I would definitely, like I said, I would definitely put Bell at 5 at least.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's definitely a bigger jump than than what shows on NASCAR's power rankings. But yeah, no, I mean Blaney definitely deserves to be at 8 with a race win, and
Yeah,
deserves not to fall out of the top 10 because he's always up there competing. It's not like a Daniel Suarez or an Austin Cindric where they get the 1 race win and then they're just nowhere to be seen for the rest of the season. So I definitely think Blaney deserves to be in the top 10. I think 8's a good spot for him. Moving on, um, yeah, uh, Bell needs respect.
yeah, yep. I think that's a great point. Like you said, he's not the got his race win luckily, and now you won't see anything else from him. But there's guys. Christopher Bell's been stronger. Now a guy that we've talked about that has been strong, had dominant showings, and the race win. Brad Keselowski is at number 7. He drops down 2 spots, which I can't argue too much. Again, I might put Blaney and Bell over him, but just because now he's kind of slipping off. He hasn't had those dominant races. He hasn't been too terrible, but there have been a couple of races where he has finished in the 20s and low 20s and stuff like that. So I can definitely get him slipping down to 2, or sorry, slipping down 2 spots. So I'm
Yeah.
not too mad about that spot. Might but might even bump him down a little bit more, honestly. But yeah, what do you think about 7 for Brad?
I'm not too mad at it. I think that he deserves to be lower than Bill and Blaney. I feel like Blaney's because Lasky had a stretch there for a little bit where he was dominant, but Blaney has always, for a lot of this season, has always had the best odds, has always had the best ranking, um, and it just seems like Blaney always has the better car.
Hmm.
Speaking for, out of the Fords, Blaney is always the one that usually has the best Ford on the track, other than when Kozlowski and Busher had their run in the middle of the season. Yeah, I don't think Brad should fall out of the top 10, but I definitely think, maybe 8 to 10 is probably where he should sit.
Yeah, that's yeah, great point. Let's move on to number 6, which is Tyler Reddick. He drops 3 spots from last week, so he was in the top 3 there, and I think I remember us talking about maybe a tad too high, just because of some guys that had gotten bumped out, but maybe not because of some guys that are up there. But he did have a pretty bad day at Iowa. Just definitely wasn't great. So I can kind of understand him dropping. But other than Iowa, he's been showing strength and stuff and been a consistent top 10 guy at the very least. So I think dropping maybe 1, 2 spots is understandable. 3, little bit too much.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Reddick always has usually a really good car. He's always up there in the top 10, usually fighting for spots. And so I'd say probably at the least 5. Um, yeah, I definitely wouldn't drop him back to 6.
Yeah, just a little too. yeah, like disrespectful for the kind of season that he's had. Because like, yeah, he had that one like Iowa, and I don't even let me check because I don't think he did absolutely terrible. 22nd at Iowa, so not definitely not on his level, but not the worst. So um, speaking of the guy that took one of his spots, who is at number 5, Martin Truex Jr. Maybe didn't deserve a spot over Reddick because now it's 6, but uh, we're not including New Hampshire in these rankings. But even prior to New Hampshire, he hadn't had a top 10 actually in 5 races. Now he's shown strength here and there, but hasn't been able to finish out. Like he very well could have won Sonoma, like we talked about, but ran out of fuel. So not really sure why NASCAR wants to move him up after he hasn't had a top 10 in over a month.
Yeah, I mean, and I've kind of said it for a while now. I mean, I don't think because Martin Truex doesn't have a race win this year, and I don't think that he deserves to be. I mean, I think there's guys that have won a race that have been stronger than Martin Truex, um, and just shown more consistency, especially within this last month. And yeah, I definitely would probably put Tyler Reddick over Truex.
Yeah,
Um, move Tyler Reddick up to 5 and Truex back to 6 at the least. But yeah, I don't think that Truex deserves to be in the top 5 anymore without a race win.
yeah. Uh, couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, when you haven't had a race win and that stretch without consistent top finishes, it's a little bit questionable to have him that high. But let's move on to number 4. Sticks with Denny Hamlin. We kind of talked about like don't understand why because it was after Sonoma when he had that engine failure and they dropped him from 2, I believe. And it's like, yeah, it wasn't great, and he didn't have a great race at Iowa because of the wreck and stuff, and it hasn't really been quite his, fault or even his team's fault. But yeah, he sticks at 4, so I'm glad, you obviously don't move him down, but maybe should still be higher because he has been really dominant, even though it's kind of been fading off as of late.
Yeah, I mean Denny Hamlin, I maybe falls back to 4, but he has 3 race wins on the season.
Yeah.
Now after New Hampshire, there's only what 2 other guys that can say that, right? Larson doesn't have
Yeah.
3.
hmm
Larson only
You
has
got,
2, right?
or no, no, Lars.
Does
Wait,
Larson have 3?
Larson
Oh no
has
no,
3.
I'm getting confused on it too now. There's so many drivers up there with 3 wins.
Right.
There's just been like one group of guys that have been super dominant all season long. So, but yeah, no,
Exactly.
I think Denny Hamlin at least deserves to be in the top 3. I mean, he hasn't shown much since his last race win. I mean, he's been fighting for spots in the top 10 and stuff like that. Just sometimes he has that weird mechanical failure, and at least stay in the top 3 for Denny Hamlin. That's what I think.
Yep. Yep. Okay, I was just looking it up. That's right. So he won the one race at Vegas, obviously. That's where he fucking dominated the entire day. And then he won I don't know why I couldn't remember. He won the split second, the closest race in NASCAR history, and then won at Sonoma. So that Sonoma was his third win. So yeah, Larson's up there with him. And then another guy up there, William Byron, he moves up 4 spots from last week, 2 weeks ago from the last power rankings, and didn't provide a reason. NASCAR didn't. I know he didn't have quite the great day at Sonoma, and yeah, we just jump him up 4 spots. Now, I don't necessarily mind 3, like we're talking about. He's one of the guys with the 3 race wins, but they were all pretty damn early, and now he's kind of faded off a little bit. So not too mad at the spot necessarily, but I think I would have Hamlin above him, and maybe just too big of a jump, especially when he didn't really show a reason for that jump.
Yeah, but I'm gonna stick. I think I'm gonna stick with what I said before. When they dropped him that far, I think Byron deserves to be up here in the top 3. Maybe now top 4 with Christopher Bell with his 3 race wins.
hmm
Um, Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't like the next guy that we're about to talk about up there.
who's who sticks right there at number two, Chase Elliott. Now, to say some good things about him, right now he's tied for the lead in points. I think before this race he was actually in the lead, and he's got the quite a good average finish, 9.12 this year. But like I said, one race win, and you're talking about guys who've now we have what three, four of them. We have four
Yeah,
guys
four,
with three race wins, and he's above
three of them.
all of them but Larson. Yeah, so still too high now. I think I'm going to start giving him a little more respect, but just when you put him top two, that's saying that obviously we know that Kyle Larson, who's number one, whoop de doo, big surprise. Not not going to be too
Yeah,
mad about giving up
yeah,
that, but when you're saying that he's the closest guy to competing to Larson for being the best driver, that's where it's like, yeah, okay, come on now. He's not quite that high.
yeah. No, I mean, I think Denny Hamlin got a lot of his wins early on, and then William Byron got a lot of his wins early on. But both Denny Hamlin and William Byron have been competing. And then Christopher Bell had he's been having a lot of good races as of late,
Hmm.
and I definitely think that it should be Chase at least falling to five. I think the four guys with three fucking race wins should be in the top four. I mean, those guys have been the most dominant, even if you look at race wins as outliers. I mean, you have
Yeah.
three massive outliers, and I think that they should. And three race wins is dominant for a season. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so
That's
I
would
think
love
that
to have
those
that.
I think that those four guys should be in the top four. I don't think Chase Elliott has earned to be even in the top four.
Even in the top four. Well, we got a little bit to talk about that, but let's move on to Kyle's power rankings. Um, and I'll start. Obviously, Kyle Larson. Nothing going to be too surprising there, unless he just decides to shit the bed for whatever random reason. But he's obviously the best driver in NASCAR right now. I'm gonna stick with my thing with Denny Hamlin at number two. I know he hasn't been on the best stretch, but he has shown strength at times. He's got caught up in wrecks and stuff. He won a stage in New Hampshire, and he was up there in Iowa. But I'm going to stick with him there, and then I'm going to put Christopher Bell up to number three. And I think that was a big jump even for me, but I want to say I would even argue him for number two just because he's got crazy good momentum. But I'm going to give Denny Hamlin a little more credit because I think he's been more consistent so far. Now I think Bell can possibly take that spot from him. Hell, NASCAR might even put him at number one. Right? Just how the way they go with stuff. But I am going to give Chase Elliott four for his consistency, for the fact that he's leading in points and he's got that high average finish, and because Byron has been slipping as of late. But not to like argue with you too much because I could flip flop them too. Because you make a great point with Byron having those three race wins. He's slipped off as of late, but he hasn't been terrible. He just hasn't been, competing for wins as much. So, yeah, Larson at one, Hamlin at two. I'm going to go Bell at three, Chase Elliott at four, and then I'm going to have William Byron at five. So, obviously, we know you said, I think you'd flip flop there, four and five. Any other thoughts on the top five?
No, I mean, I feel like maybe just because Christopher Bell's hot right now, maybe like you said, you could put him up at two. But I feel like Denny Hamlin has had a better season. He's competed a lot more. He's shown a lot more strength than Christopher Bell, I think, this season, and he's just had a couple of bad mishaps, and so, or Denny has had a couple of
Yeah.
bad mishaps, and so, yeah, I think I like it. I'd maybe flip Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin, and flip Chase Elliott and William Byron.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move on to the next five, which I'm going to have Tyler Reddick at six, with just the same spot, but I don't think I had him as high as three, the week before, like NASCAR did. I think those five above him, you maybe could make an argument for Chase Elliott because Tyler Reddick has competed for more wins at least, but he does only have the one win. So I think it's fair to put him at 6. And then I'm going to have Blaney at 7, and then Martin Truex Jr. at 8, Brad Keselowski at 9, and I'm going to keep Chris Buescher in the top 10 for now just because I think he's shown more strength. Very hesitant 10th place, I'll say, for Chris Buescher.
I don't know. I feel like I might push Chris Buescher out of the top 10. I feel like that would probably be my only gripe about these 6 through 10. I'd probably push Buescher out. Just because, I mean, I know he had a good stretch, but he hasn't been very good of late, and I think you got to account for the whole team. And that means I would push Buescher out of the top 10.
Or because you already knew who my 11th guy was, and that was Ross Chastain. Let's probably be a little more. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm going to have Ross Chastain at 11, just where he always finishes every week. If he can get more top 10s, maybe I'll give him a top 10 spot. No, just kidding. And then I'm going to keep Ty Gibbs up at 12. I think 15 was too harsh. He was showing strength. I know he's not on a good stretch, but it's nothing he can't rebound from. And then I'm going to say Alex Bowman at 13. I'm going to have Joey at 14. Which I think is still a jump for me, but it is a little bit lower than NASCAR's. And then I'm going to have Bubba Wallace at 15.
I think I would probably switch Bowman and Gibbs. I think that would probably be the only thing there. And then obviously I liked where NASCAR put Ross Chastain. I mean, there might be a little bias there, but I liked him at 10. I'd probably put Buescher back at 11 at the least. And then I'd just switch Bowman and Gibbs, I feel.
Okay. Yeah, can't really argue with you too much there. A little bit of a difference, but like you make some good points. So now let's finish out the rest of the top 20 with straight Fords. So we're going to put Austin Cindric at 16, Chase Briscoe at 17, Josh Berry at 18, and then Todd Gilliland at 19. Noah Gragson, I'm going to slip him down to 20. I might even be able to argue that Briscoe, Berry can go ahead of Cindric, but they don't have the race win. But I think they've been a little bit more consistent. But yeah, any thoughts on the bottom of my power rankings?
Well, I think you're forgetting about another driver with a race win.
Oh yeah, you think Suarez up there?
I think that you could push either Todd Gilliland or Noah Gragson out of the top 20 and put Daniel Suarez there. Just because he has the one race win. I understand that he's a driver just like Austin Cindric that doesn't do anything, gets the one lucky race win. I get that, but he still does have a race win. And I'm going to stick by like what I said for the drivers that have 3 race wins and deserve to be in the top 4. I don't think that you should push a guy that has a race win out of the top 20.
Yeah.
Even if he hasn't been performing the best, he still has the race win. So I would definitely put I'd put him up at 19 or 20. And that's my only gripe there with your last of your list.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think that he's just been sticking at, like that 19th spot because he's had that win and just hasn't been doing anything. We haven't seen him really that much. But yeah, I think that's still a fair point. I mean, he's going to be in the playoffs and stuff, and he's got the wins, so I can see him deserving a top 20. I just kind of want to show these guys some love, especially like Todd Gilliland, Josh Berry, Briscoe, after they've been, putting forth some strong performances as of late. But be sure there wasn't any. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say because I mean, if you want to put Daniel Suarez out of the top 20, then you put Austin Cindric out of the top 22. You only have Austin Cindric at 16 because he won his race or closest to where we're at now.
I think he's been a little bit better. Suarez won a race by what? The length of Lightning McQueen's tongue or whatever that was at Atlanta.
And Austin Cindric only won his race because Ryan Blaney ran out of gas.
It's a good point, but he was a consistent top 5 guy all day that day, and I don't know if I've even seen Suarez in the top 5 outside of Atlanta.
He was racing in the top 5 when Larson wrecked
At Iowa. Oh yeah.
at Iowa. Yeah. He's up
Lord.
there. He's up there in the top 5, top 10. He just never finishes up there, so nobody ever talks about him.
Yep, that's well, like we talked about with Larson. He's got to start finishing races, and he just hasn't been doing it as much. But you're right; he got a top 10 at least at Iowa. He did finish ninth, so probably his best in a while. So yeah, maybe I'm just being a little too hateful on your Trackhouse teammate. But are you sure that wasn't your only gripe with the top 20 driver? There's another guy that Kyle left off his power rankings. Did you even notice?
Yeah, I noticed, but I don't want to talk about him. So.
Well, I thought you would love that, man. But fuck, I
I
got
don't
I
want to
got
give.
him
I don't
down at
want
like 30.
to. I don't want to give you another chance to fucking talk about how good he was before.
Well, you know what? Like we said, I think when we talked about NASCAR's power rankings with him at 19, because that was um, before New Hampshire, I could see them trying to keep him at 20. But hey, he might be off NASCAR's power rankings next week, and it's not like I can sit here and argue it anymore. So
Yeah.
what you got to do, you got to win a race to get back in there, right? And show some strength, hopefully, eventually. So
Well, then you can put him in the
anyway.
same boat as Austin Cindric and Daniel Suarez.
Oh man, that is just whew,
You can't
god
argue it
damn.
either.
That is just a heartbreaking statement. That is, yeah, it's kind of true. So on that note, I'm gonna get this podcast wrapped up before we can break my heart anymore. No, I'm just kidding. We will definitely be back after our next race at Nashville. We might take a little bit of a break just with the scheduling stuff, try to get back on our normal routine. But yeah, we'll definitely make sure to recap Nashville, get you back on our power rankings and odds segments, and we'll check you guys next time.